Okay, so here's all the sketchbooks I did throughout rehab. These are the ones I did in the psych ward because these were the only notebooks they had while they let me have them while I was there for a week each time. I went to multiple psych wards and this is the only one that let me have like a notebook with me. And they would give me a pen. It's a pen where like it's pretty much just the ink cartridge, so you would draw with like a tiny little ink cartridge pretty much. I'll censor anything that's personal, but I'm a lot better now. I got inspired to do this by Prications. I thought it was super cool, and I didn't watch the video completely, so I didn't want to copy them, and this is sort of just my own take on showing my psych ward sketchbooks. I called it a health journal while I was there, and this is the schedule that I had in the psych ward. I have a really hard time overthinking. It's not your average overthinking. I have OCD, so a lot of that had to do with that diagnosis, but I drew a lot while I was in the psych ward because it was one of the things that distracted me, and I know all psych wards are different because I've been to over like 10 psych wards, and I noticed that this one was the most lenient and also the most chill because we all gathered in a single space, and we would just sit there and watch, and I would draw. They had some crayons and stuff, so I'll let you read this, but this is just an overview of what I did at the psych ward. I won't go into much detail because it's kind of deep. It's kind of too deep. And I'm honestly in a better space now. This was from years ago, so I thought, why not, since I'm like quite over this. And this was about maybe 3 years ago, I'd say. I am okay with sharing what I did because it's not that crazy. There's not like, oh, like super angsty art. It's more so me just trying to distract myself while I was in the psych ward. And yeah, this is more art. The psych ward drawings will be pretty quick because it was mostly just doodles. The rehab drawings is where I was allowed pens and stuff. I have a tendency to draw spirals when I'm anxious, so and just patterns in general, repetitiveness, and it helped my OCD calm down a bit, I guess. Yeah. Some nihilism. I learned about it from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Very good movie. Little fish head. And I think the end is just a bunch of writing. I stopped drawing because I was getting close to going home, so... And that usually made me very anxious because I was very much just happy with dealing with very little. So, yeah, this one is done. On to the next one. This is the second time I went into my psych ward. I did the schedule again because it's the same psych ward that they let me go to. And they had the same schedule, but obviously like different people, so it was a different experience every time I went. And honestly, the best psych ward I went to out of all the ones I did. I watched a lot of Netflix. This was like some sweet tooth. I actually was able to look at references because while I was in the psych ward, we were allowed to go on the computer, but it was like 2 computers and there was like 2 turns. And because of what I was dealing with, I wasn't allowed to go near the computers, so I wasn't allowed any access to internet or anything. And I remember around this time when I came out the psych ward, Queen of England had died, and I didn't even know until like I got out a couple days later. Apparently it was such big news, and I just didn't know. It felt weird to like learn something a little bit farther ahead, so It really felt like I was in a different section of the world. And probably watch some Monsters Inc. here. Yeah, this is Boo, I'm pretty sure. Someone named... I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure this was from some Netflix series. That's all I really did, was just watch Netflix and draw. I felt like I could finally be at rest when I was at the psych ward, this specific one. It felt like I almost didn't even want to leave because everything felt like it was paused. And in real life, all my troubles were paused, and when I get out, I'll have to deal with everything I was dealing with again, and that's a lot of what people were preparing us for. The doctors were preparing the patients for being able to go out again and being able to have help when they get out, and they did that often for me. But I had gone back often enough to where they said I needed higher care. But that was after the third time, which this was done pretty much. So the third time was this sketchbook, and that I barely drew in this sketchbook because I just wasn't feeling it. I was honestly at my worst. Even though I had gone back home multiple times, and this was like my third time, so spirals, and I'm pretty sure that's it. And after that, they decided to put me in higher care, which was rehab, and I'll be showing that. So I was allowed to take things to rehab, and I took like some sketchbooks and a bag of pens. I was there for about 3 months. I was there for New Year's, so that was fun. It's always fun hanging out in a psych ward or rehab during the holidays, because also when I was in the psych ward with the other journals, I was there for Thanksgiving. I had an interview with Apex Legends while I was at the psych ward, and they let me do the interview with Apex Legends, and I was very lucky in that aspect because it was something that brought me a lot of happiness. So yeah, I practiced my questions and stuff before then because I was really nervous. And yeah, most of these I'm pretty sure is art. I don't think I did a lot of writing. I did some at first, but yeah, it's dated 12/31/22, so about 3 years ago. Just did a lot of drawing while I was there, and I'll probably just quietly flip through some of these. This was a tree that was outside in the backyard. I referenced it because I barely could reference the people drawings I did. So all the people drawings are without reference. And this was the therapy dog. He was lying down, so I quickly drew him. He would come every week. I forgot which day it was, but... Oh, so they let me bring some manga from home, and I brought Fruits Basket. I brought Fruits Basket because I wanted to reference that. And that's something that brought me joy, I'd say, while I was there. It's having time to read Fruits Basket while I was suffering a lot. This is a self-portrait. Yeah, I would barely write. I would mostly draw. I would take even my art book while I was in the group therapy classes because I just needed to draw while I was paying attention, and they kind of understood that. They understood that I needed to draw while talking to someone because it just helped me concentrate a bit more on what was going on in real life than rather in my head, because that's how badly I was in my head, to the point where you couldn't get me out of my head sometimes. Some more Fruits Basket fan art. I got super into Fruits Basket because of course that was the only thing I could get into, since that was the only media that I was allowed to, because we weren't even allowed to listen to music with lyrics. We were forced to listen to lo-fi music, and it was the worst thing ever. I guess I did write something almost every day at first. But yeah, these are just a lot of doodles I did during group therapy. I'm not sure if I like any of these now, but I guess I should say a bit about myself. I am diagnosed with a bunch of shit, but in the end, I'm mostly diagnosed. The base of all my diagnoses is PTSD. PTSD was the source of my problems. I won't go into what gave me PTSD, but it's from when I was a child, so that could tell you a lot. Something happening to a kid's brain so young kind of messed me up in a lot of ways, and but at the same time, it's kind of freeing to experience things I didn't get to experience as a kid. So yeah, well, I guess there's some angsty art, but there's not a lot. I find that angsty art doesn't really help me. I mean, it's angsty, but like, I don't know, it's just not something I was super into. I kind of just wanted to draw people and get out my own head because I was just feeling bad all the time. Why would I want to draw something that made me feel even worse? This was the view from the backyard. I went in the backyard and drew what it looked like. And this was the little shed in the backyard. I never knew what was in there, so. This rehab kind of sucked. This is someone that used to play the guitar there. This rehab sucked because they wouldn't let me leave. When I wanted to leave, they said I was too ill to leave and make my own choices. So, in a sense, they were right, because I was acting pretty crazy back then, to the point where they thought that I shouldn't leave. And I ran away like 4 times and they had to catch me each time, except the last time. It was like super late at night and it was the day before I was about to leave. And I just ran away because they wouldn't let me use the phone. It was kind of crazy, I'd say. This is the beginning of my webcomic. I started the concept in Rehab. And these are like the beginnings of the characters. Like, this is Penny. She stayed the same. I made her up in Rehab, which I think is pretty cool because it just like shows how long this character's been with me. And this is more of what the house looked like from the back. It was a pretty big house where 6 other patients were in, and I was one of the 6. And there was just a bunch of people observing us and watching us, and yeah, just a bunch of stuff. That rehab was pretty shady because, yeah, it was just shady overall, and I didn't like it. They wouldn't let me leave, so I have a bunch of drawings of almost filled up 2 whole sketchbooks filled with art. Into that rehab gave me experience, but also at the same time, when I went back home, it was almost like everything started over again, and I just had to deal with what I was dealing with before rehab. It didn't help. It didn't help at all, and that's when I realized like the only thing that could help me was myself. And even then, it took months. It took months of me struggling with obsession and OCD, PTSD, my bipolar disorder. Yeah, just a bunch of stuff. Like, I would be crazy if I didn't have the medications I take right now. And sometimes I forget, and I'm reminded to take my medications. the characters I had created before for the comic I was creating, which is completely different from what it is now. And then I was like more than a week left. I was still stuck at rehab and they were forcing me to stay there longer. My mom came over sometimes and she gave me a picture of my cat to look at while I was stuck at rehab. So, second sketchbook while I was at rehab. It was a lot more than a week. It was about a month left. This is more doodles. I don't really have too much to say, honestly. Being mentally ill is not good. It's not fun, so you can get the help you need even if it seems uncontrollable, because it is uncontrollable, but you can get help with dealing with the burden of having terrible mental health. So yeah, I had a compulsion prevention plan. I won't go into too much detail about what I was very compulsive about, but yeah. More views of different rooms inside. This apparently was living room 2, and this was the living room. They had like a TV, and this is where all the workers would group, I guess, and TV there where it would show our schedule of the day. And we had chores. Each of us had our own chores. This was the little campfire that they had in the backyard, and the chairs where we would sometimes do group therapy. But yeah, this is like an average sketchbook tour. It's just I did it during a time where I was not well. I guess. Like, some people would think that I would have so much like vent art, but I really didn't, because what I was dealing with was just too much to deal with to have vent art. So I do have event art, I guess. Sometimes I would just get so angry and do vent art, but I guess that's only when I get angry. I don't really do vent art when I'm sad, and I was just sad a lot of the time. We were allowed to watch movies sometimes. I think we watched like 3 movies during the 3 months I was there, so yeah. After I left rehab, I was set off to go to a place that would help me, but I unfortunately didn't want help at that time. I kept falling asleep during the lectures, and they kicked me out. And I was left to deal with things while I was at home. And I honestly didn't get better until I found a job. That's funny enough, that's what helped me get out of my funk at first, was finding a job. Just kind of funny. I hate working retail now, but that's literally what saved me from being stuck in my head so much. I did work on a comic a bit while I was at rehab. This was with the characters I had drawn in the other one. Kind of gory, but this is mostly it. I was just making comics and drawing and I made it through. I made it through the hardship of figuring out I have PTSD and bipolar disorder, OCD, and severe depression and anxiety. So if I made it, you can make it through. Because I didn't think I would be here, and I still don't think I'm sometimes I still think that, but I'm able to create more art now, and I say my art now is a lot more improved, and I'm happy now, so things work out.